Well, my next guest has been part of efforts to reassure Jewish students in New York State. Rabbi Marc Schneier, president of the Foundation for Ethnic Understanding. Welcome. Great to have you back with us. We've seen shocking scenes, haven't we, over the past 2 weeks, mainly from university campuses. I mean, are these institutions still safe for Jews?
They are safe for Jews, but we have launched an initiative of Imam Shamsi, Ali and I, the Imam is virtually the chief Imam of New York, and I, to address different Hillels on college campuses and Muslim student associations, reminding them that, yes, we cherish American values and freedoms of protest and demonstrations, but you cannot cross the line when it comes to violence, confrontation, intimidation. We can agree to disagree without being disagreeable. And I think that my working closely with Chancellor Rodriguez at the City University of New York, which is the largest urban university in the world, we need to realize that the universities can also only do so much, and why it's incumbent upon us reaching out to Muslim leaders to begin addressing the youth of the American Muslim community in terms of conveying the message that we are now conveying on college campuses.
Yeah, we're just looking at pictures of you now sitting alongside an imam, and you were both kind of delivering a message of peace to people. But it's interesting, isn't it, Mark, because, you know, you hear from Egyptian Americans, Lebanese Americans, Iraqi Americans. They seem to kind of have a, you know, not only a better grasp of history and what happened in the region, but you certainly don't see them joining chants for Israel to be destroyed. It seems to be the younger generation. Bizarrely, some of them are Jewish themselves, and they just don't seem to have any grasp of history. They don't seem to know, you know, how Israel was here, you know, what the region looked like, about the Ottoman Empire or anything. There seems to be something, you know, problematic with the education system on these university campuses.
You're spot on, but I often say that if people fight for their own rights are only as honorable as when they fight for the rights of all people. Why we must challenge American Muslim leaders to help protect and defend Jewish students on college campuses. When President Trump initiated the anti-Muslim ban that impacted on Muslims across the country, the #1 champion of the American Muslim community was the American Jewish community, particularly myself. Well, now is the time that we need American Muslim leaders to help defend, protect Jewish students. And it's time for them to rise to the fore, because, you know, the door swings both ways. There needs to be quid pro quo, and that's been my message, you know, that I've delivered these past few weeks, you know, across the Muslim world. You know, for example, my visit 2 weeks ago to Kazakhstan, which is the grand prize of Muslim nations in Central Asia, had a very, very lukewarm statement after the Hamas massacre. And I sat down with the leadership, reminding them that Hamas is not only laser focused on the destruction of Israel, it's hell-bent on destroying the Jewish people. And the very next morning, President Tokayev issued a statement unequivocally condemning Hamas for its barbarism, for its savagery. We need to break out Hamas from this Israeli-Palestinian conflict and to call Hamas for what it is.
Well, I don't know if you know her. I interviewed Dalia Al-Akidi. She's running to unseat Ilhan Omar in Minnesota, and part of the squad, you know, have been termed the pro-Hamas caucus in recent days. And she was talking about, you know, when you had immigration from the Muslim world in the 70s, people wanted to get away from those systems of governance, and they wanted to live in a free country, whereas you've got more recently immigrants who are bringing those cultures and those customs with them. Do you see that as part of the problem?
Look, I'm afraid that nothing is going to change in terms of this new dynamic of anti-Semitism until Muslim leaders begin to assume some responsibility, whether it's here in the United States, whether it's countries like UAE, Bahrain, Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan. They need to stand up to defend and protect the Jewish people. This is not an Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This is not a conflict between Israel and the greater Muslim and Arab community. No, as President Biden said, this is a war between the forces of good and the forces of evil. And we cannot do this without having allies within the greater Muslim and Arab community.
Well, talking about those allies, of course, Rabbi, you have close ties, don't you, with high-level officials in the Gulf states. What have they been telling you? And do they still want to pursue cooperation with Israel?
There is no question they want to pursue cooperation. Saudi Arabia is just on pause. But we're trying to get them to the next step. You know, after the massacre, UAE and Bahrain did condemn Hamas, but we need to maintain that momentum, whether it's in the Gulf, whether it's in Central Asia. We have to let people know what Hamas is and what they represent.
Rabbi Marc Schneier, great to talk to you. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very much indeed, and all the best with your efforts.
Thank you for having me.
Important work you're doing. Thank you. Thank you so much.